Hiya sugars, it's Nikki here and thank you so much for joining me for card number 4 for the 10 cards 1 kit, which is all about SSS Stamp October 2017 card kit. Now I'm just showing you my card base trick, which is taking a whole sheet of cardstock, lining it up to the 5.5 inch side, scoring quite a few times because I am using an 110 pound card stock, so it does need that extra scoring. Then on the 8.5 inch side, I take it to 4 1/4 and then just cut it in half. So essentially, you get 2 card bases right at once. Now I do use a little flat edge to help me get a better crease just because the cardstock is so thick. Now for the essentially what would have been the second card base, I'm just cutting it in half because I knew later on in a couple of other videos I would need some ivory cardstock, so this worked out fine. Now I'm showing you here kind of some layering pieces that I've done for myself and wrote down the measurements for, and I did it in different card stocks so I could have that contrast. Because I'm such a visual person, I like to see everything, see how much of a layering effect that I will get, what's the border that'll show, all those kind of things. So I just wanted to show you, if you're a visual person like me, you might want to try that trick. I know it really helped me. So what I decided to do is take that piece of pattern paper that came in the card kit and cut it down to 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And essentially what you're doing is taking you're taking a 1/2 inch from each side. Now I'm laying it on my card base because I knew I wanted to create a flag banner. I just didn't know how long I wanted it. So right now, again, it's just visualizing how things are going to lay out for me. So now I'm seeing, I'll probably need to take about 1 inch off the top. So now that you know that, you can probably just cut it at 3 3/4 by 4 inches. But I didn't know that at the time. So now to make that pattern piece of paper a flag banner, I just take it over, and using my grid mat here, I'm just trying to locate what would be the center of that piece of paper, and just creating a dot of how high I'd like the banner to go. Then I just cut from the edges there up to the center. You could do it this way, or you could cut right up the center and then cut from the corners. It's all your personal preference. So again, just visualizing how things are going to lay out. And I like it, but I think there's too much space at the bottom. So what I decided to do is actually use that little corner piece that we cut to create kind of a channel where the sentiment will go. And again, I'm just trying to visualize, like, will that work? And yes, it will. But I knew that pattern paper definitely needed something to make it pop from the card base. So what I'm using is the Versamark ink, which is a clear sticky ink that embossing powder sticks really, really well to. So I'm just taking that pattern paper and going straight into the ink pad, and using the SSS Stamp Steel Navy embossing powder that came in the kit, and just using a heat tool to set that. Now, when I heat set everything, I realized I did miss a couple of areas, which is fine because that's what the Emboss It pen is really good at. So again, just using that in areas where I think I missed something or needs a little bit more embossing powder, and go back and redo the exact same thing. Now to make sure everything is cohesive, I decided to emboss the little triangle piece as well. So again, going straight into the ink, adding the embossing powder, and then heat setting it. That way everything looks cohesive and it's one look. Now I do like to use this Swiffer cloth to get any stray embossing powder because it really actually kind of catches it instead of just moving it all around your desk. So now that I know that is going to work, I'm using my sentiment called "You Are Loved," and that is from the Brushstroke Messages that came in the card kit. And I just prepped that on my acrylic block. I will now be using my Scotch ATG gun to put some adhesive on the back flag banner there, as well as a little triangle piece. And using my grid mat again really helps get things kind of lined up. Now the grid mat that I have behind me is actually a cutting mat, and it's magnetic as well. So I should have just used my magnets to keep my card base where it was supposed to be, instead of that infamous blue ink cube. Anyways, so again, just using the grid lines to really just make sure everything's lined up, and I really tried to make sure that the points were really well lined up as well, because the last thing I wanted to do was kind of have that offset. So now, using the gray ink pad that came in the Clearly Kelly Urban set, I'm using that ink to ink up my sentiment, and I just had that little heart there, honestly, to help with stabilization so I didn't rock my stamp. So my idea to begin with was to have it just be gray sentiments on the card front, but somehow that blue ink pad got in there, and you would think by seeing it right there that I would have known that it was blue. Nope, had no idea until I stamped it, and it was like, oh, it's totally now gray and blue. But, you know, I was debating, I'm like, do I start over, or do I just leave it the way it is? And I was like, you know what, let's just leave it the way it is. It's fine. It wasn't that bad of a quote-unquote mistake to constitute a whole new card. So now I am taking my die cuts, and these die cuts are actually embossed in that same Steel Navy embossing powder that I did earlier. And basically I didn't want that particular flower to be hanging over the edge there, so I just kind of cut it in half. And using the Ranger Matte Multi-Medium, I'm pretty sure I just nailed that. Because I always get it confused. I always say it wrong. And I'm really, really liking this adhesive, because even though it is an adhesive, it dries matte and it dries clear. So even if I kind of goobered, like you saw, I totally like dropped that die cut on the front of the card, it's not going to show, which I really, really like, because the other adhesives I've had, once they dry, either you can still see them, or they kind of get tacky on you, and that's not a good look either. So I'm just using that little brush that came in the kit as well to really help get that glue into tiny areas. And then I just use clear acrylic blocks that kind of help weight everything down so they don't shift and move on me, and that way the adhesive has some time to set. And then I'll be doing that. This is actually the negative of that die, and it is really, really pretty, so don't throw those things away. They're really nice. So unfortunately, I do not have a finished card for you where I have everything adhered and kind of wave you off and say thank you so much for sharing. Unfortunately, my camera died and I didn't realize that. So I will be including a finished shot for you, but don't forget to check out my blog for really more details and a couple more pictures for you. And thank you so much for stopping by and watching this video. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. See you later, sugars.